Chennai too torched Professor Swaminathan's psyche, and it was here that his initial ideas took root, which later on found a permanent home in a red and brick mortar building, which is today better known as MSSRF, the MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, his eponymous foundation, which was built because he had promised C.V. Raman that one day when India's public polity didn't need him for so long, he turned his eyes to research and set up something to further the cause of science in India. Centuries ago, the Roman philosopher Seneca the Younger said, "A hungry person listens not to reason, nor cares for justice, nor is bent by any prayer. He wants food today." This sentiment was richly echoed millennia later by a well-known television anchor in India, here I'm referencing Shekhar Gupta, who once very tellingly remarked at the beginning of an interview on his eponymous talk show, Walk the Talk, that if there is food on our plates today, and if 1.4 billion people in India don't go to bed hungry anymore, we have Professor Swaminathan to thank for that. From securing India's food grains and elevating her food security, thank you. From one of abject scarcity to that of absolute abundance, to shining a light on climate change long before it became the buzzword it is today, and popularizing the use of millets in our diets 30 years ago, which the government of the day has unleashed a publicity blitzkrieg, and in advocating for women's rights in the workplace, from farmlands to boardrooms, to being the voice of the voiceless, the unseen, the unsung, the poor, the destitute, and for those existing on the bare fringes of society. Mangamba Sambasivan Swaminathan, or MS Swaminathan's life, encompassed all this and so much very more. Hailed as the father of the Green Revolution in India in the 1960s, which he delivered in close partnership with American Nobel laureate Norman Borlaug to grow high-yielding varieties of rice and wheat, a phase in the country's agricultural history which later came to be better known as the Green Revolution. It was independent India's first tryst at Atmanirbharta. This is a word we hear very often today, but that is when it all started. Pinned to the wall in the 1960s by endlessly draining PL 480, that is Public Law 480, wheat imports from the United States, Mrs. Gandhi and Professor Swaminathan only had science to turn to. Science was also their only defiance, and Professor Swaminathan's defiance was everything he essentially was: gentle, inclusive, and egalitarian. It was an agricultural transformation that forever changed the face of India's farming practices and is quintessentially the story of India, of unity in the midst of tremendous diversity, of an intrepid Tamilian scientist working with the farmers in Punjab to eke out quantities of grain not seen in India for 4,000 years since the time of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. This magic was later replicated all across Southeast Asia, from Vietnam to the Philippines, to bail other nations out of food scarcity as well. There is perhaps no one in India, no politician, no business leader, and certainly no philanthropist who has done more to help feed this country of teeming billions today more than Professor Swaminathan. He was a hunger warrior, not just for India, but for the world at large, because freedom from hunger, more than others, is the most fundamental freedom of them all. And food, more than anything else, is the ultimate currency of life. MS Swaminathan was not just an agricultural scientist of such laurels. He was also much ahead of his time. He was a humanist, an ardent feminist, a Gandhian, a technocrat, a conservationist, a philosopher, an institution builder, and a mentor and guide to millions of farmers who call him their own today. Born on the 7th of August 1925, the second of four siblings, he was expected to become a medical doctor and follow in the footsteps of his brilliant surgeon father, who departed the world when he was a very young boy of 11. But the dance of death that the Bengal famine unleashed essentially caused a huge upheaval in his heart and psyche and altered the course of his story forever. He decided that instead of medicine, he would study agricultural sciences to help India grow better crops, so that famine and hunger, seen on the scale of the Bengal famine, would never maim India's soul and heart again. Time magazine in its 1999 millennial issue hailed him as one of the 20 most influential Asians of the century. and he was only one of 3 Indians on that list. The other 2 were Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore. His constant endeavor to make science work for farmers has often meant taking on roles far beyond the laboratory, actively seeking to engage with the political establishment and in India, and that he did with rare aplomb. His emissaries were scattered all over the globe, and his goodwill extended well beyond India's physical borders. He once very tellingly remarked that the future belongs to nations who have grains, not guns. In recent years, as India has continued to face food shortages and climate change, has unleashed new challenges for agriculture, Professor Swaminathan often recalled the words of President Roosevelt in his second inaugural address, which was amidst the Depression. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have very little. To the world, he was Professor Swaminathan, but to me, he was simply my Atimber, who had the patience of Job, who I met as a knee-high 7-year-old and who would patiently indulge all my endless chatter. As I hurtled at 120 kilometers per hour with my Toronto words, I don't think very much has changed even now. But M.S. Swaminathan wouldn't have been M.S. Swaminathan. He eventually became without the support of one of the greatest catalysts in his life, his wife, and my aunt, Meena Swaminathan. Today in their hometown, I want to pay tribute to the one woman who was his constant, his North Pole, and the wind beneath his wings. A hugely accomplished economist from Cambridge in her own right. She found her métier in early childhood education, and it was the gamut of Meena Swaminathan's sacrifices that enabled M.S. Swaminathan to scale every mountain he ever climbed. To me, she was the unsung but crucial heroine of the Green Revolution. We often achieve our greatest successes by standing on the shoulders of giants, and sometimes these giants are our families. Unsung, quiet, but steadfast in their support and love. We are essentially because they were, and they had our backs unconditionally. In the course of writing this book, and later on, taking M.S. Swaminathan's story to the world, I have turned to the giant whose shoulders I trepidatiously stand on, my husband, who has enabled me in every possible way to leave home for unending stints without complaint or a nag as I wrote this book. His love has been the honor and privilege of my life, a love which has been equal parts exhilarating and exasperating. To our 3 children, Avienda, Rahel and Rishan, I ask for their forgiveness for spending days out of Singapore and for mothering them in fits and starts, but for loving them endlessly all along. Writing about M.S. Swaminathan in his centennial year has been the honor and privilege of my life, and equally the most daunting task I have ever undertaken. What he achieved in a lifetime was almost encyclopedic, capturing, achieving, defying, and redrawing what most wouldn't achieve in 10, perhaps 20 lifetimes. His incredible life was ultimately a veritable cauldron of stories, stories of resilience, stories of hope, stories about inclusivity, stories of turning adversity into opportunity, and stories about believing in the innate goodness of people and giving them a moment to shine, to excel well beyond even their own wildest imagination. These stories should be told for a newer, more impatient audience, for children of my daughters' and sons' generations. Their generation today is dictated by the rigors of social media, AI, the metaverse, and of uncomfortable truths which exist in these parallel spaces. Crucially devoid of heroes beyond those which television and reality media influences spawn. Professor Swaminathan's life holds lessons not just for youngsters of their generation who will shape the world we eventually leave behind, but for generations to come as well. This unassuming son of India preferred to let his work do his talking, and who was most comfortable sharing a simple meal on the floor with farmers and their families on verdant green fields, rather than hobnobbing with the leading lights of the day, which is of course something which he had to do because that was the nature of his work. His greatest reward, unsurprisingly, was the affection of the farmers of India, for whom he toiled tirelessly both on and off the fields for close to 9 decades. This book, which is for the general curious reader and not a technically agricultural tome, is ultimately a thank you from my generation to his for showing us how it is done, how well it can be done without rancor, malice, ill will, moral corruption, judgment, and it was because he dreamt that we ate. You have to put up with me a little more because I have to invite my iconic speakers up. So here goes. What intertwines food and cinema? Apart from the fact that most of us would consider both non-negotiable, it is the fact that they're both essentially democratic as well. Everybody needs to eat, and movies are universally loved. So when it came to choosing a film icon to release my book on India's food security icon in Chennai, the choice was an easy one. Dr. Kamal Haasan needs no introduction, but I shall hazard a short one, with your permission. A cinematic polymath, not to mention polyglot, actor, producer, director, a Gandhian, his film Hey Ram is one of my favorites and also an essential rite of passage, and now a politician. He's also coined my newest favorite word at actually our alma mater, Harvard, in 2018, that gets added to my lexicon from now on, neo-politiculturalist, or someone who blends politics and culture, and I'm reading off the net now, to shape a new political structure or polity. My first introduction to Kamal sir's films was actually India's most celebrated silent film, Pushpa, which I saw when I think I was barely 8 years old on Doordarshan on one of those very languid Sunday afternoons when nothing else was playing, and I was hooked.
How many of us think of Mangal, Sambasivan, Swaminathan when we drive through either Kumbakonam, Chennai, or for that matter, any town in India? Not many, I suspect, unless we pause to think about hunger or the man who conquered it. Our cities today overflow with choices. Streets lined up with restaurants, the air thick with aromas, eyes searching for the next good meal. We forget that only a few decades ago, hunger was not a metaphor, but a neighbor. Those memories of famine and helplessness lie buried beneath the rubble of injustice left behind by imperialists who dined while we starved. The Annadhata of India, even that noble title, cannot fully encompass the man or describe him. What do I do first? Thank him or remember him? He himself, I think, would have preferred neither. He was too busy celebrating freedom by shouldering his responsibilities. He belonged to a rare generation of Indians who saw liberty not as leisure, but as labor. The sacred duty of rebuilding a broken nation. I grew up in a home that revered such men. History was not in textbooks for me. It was served with dinner in my house. Later, I learned to dive deeper, to touch the currents myself. Sometimes I have watched history unfold once in a while. I have even touched it. Yes. I have shaken hands with one of its true heroes, Mr. Swaminathan. Tamil Nadu knows the word Annavasal, the gateway of food. 2000 years ago, Jain Munis earned that title. In our age, Dr. Swaminathan reclaimed it, not through prayer, but through science. For some, food is survival. For a few, it's a political tool. For most, it is love and kindness shared across a plate. But for Mr. Dr. Swaminathan, food was destiny, the destiny of free India. There was a time when the world believed it is impossible for India to feed itself. Drought after drought ravaged the land. We lived at the mercy of foreign aid. We imported grain from America under the PL 480 food aid program. Wheat unfit for their plates, but deemed good enough for ours. It was humiliation disguised as help. And then came a friendship between two men of science, one American, one Indian, that defied impossibility. Dr. Norman Borlaug and Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. Borlaug, the agri-scientist who won the Nobel Prize for achieving peace through wheat, not war. And Dr. Swaminathan, who showed that peace and self-reliance begin not in the halls of power, but in the paddy fields of a hungry nation. Together, they saved millions from hunger and nourished billions yet unborn. Together, they gifted India the miracle of dwarf wheat. Before them, our wheat was top-heavy. It collapsed under the weight of its own promise. This new wheat stood firm, proud, unbending, like the India that would soon rise with it. Dr. Swaminathan understood what few did, that food security is the first linchpin of national security. Unless we became a food surplus nation, we could never stand up to the neo-colonial powers. Without him, India might never have had that policy, independence to make her own choice. Be it in 1971 war or the 1974 Pokhran test, the trinity of Dr. Swaminathan's life could be crystallized as dream, soul, and awaken. He dreamt so that India could eat. He sold so that India could stand tall. He worked so India could dream again. This book, The Man Who Fed India, captures not just his achievements, but the quiet fire that powered him. Within these pages are glimpses of the man behind the legend and the humility that made greatness look effortless. My favorite image of him in this book, apart from those with his family, is the one where he stands beside Dr. Varghese Kurian. Two revolutions in a single frame. One gave us grain and another milk. Together, they nourish the body and soul of the nation. Over the years, I've learned that one way to make one's life meaningful is to venerate, envy, imitate, and if possible, improvise, drawing from whatever little we know of their journey. This book is one more motivation to do just that, to peek into an achiever's handbook. I congratulate Bharat for illuminating the extraordinary journey of one of the greatest patriots of independent India, a man to whom we owe more than what we can express. And this evening, this celebration is a collective way of passing his light forward. Like his and my hero once said, "My life is my message." Dr. Swaminathan's life was his message, and I'm honored, deeply honored, to be his messenger. Thank you.
Today, as we launch The Man Who Fed India, the story of independent India's first tryst with Atmanirbharta or self-reliance, where food security then gave us independent political security as well. And the man behind the revolution, the man who we are celebrating today in a centennial year. Professor Swaminathan Bharat Ratna Awardee 2024 and National Icon. And the book was released very generously and very graciously by National Icon Dr. Kamal Hassan and Tamil Nadu's very own, the most media savvy, articulate politician whose fame actually extends well beyond Chennai, Dr. Tyagarajan. I'm exceptionally grateful to the people of Chennai, to the media in Chennai, and to the political establishment in Chennai who has heralded this book and who supported the book in his centennial year. Thank you for coming.
Who is the target audience for this book?
The target audience for this book is anybody who likes to read. It can be a 9-year-old, it can be a 90-year-old. You love to read, you pick up a book and you read it. This is not an agricultural book, it's a book about stories. It's about the story of India, how we were able to take down American control on our own terms. And I think the themes that the book has covered, in the book, are still relevant today. Today we are still taking America on as far as the trade tariff wars are concerned. And we did that in the 1960s. And perhaps there are lessons for today's political establishment from what Dr. Swaminathan and Mrs. Gandhi had to go through in the 1960s.
What is availability, madam? Book availability.
The book is available everywhere. It's available on Amazon, it is available on Higginbotham, it's just behind you, it is available in any bookstore near you. And it is available online on Padega India, everywhere the book is. The public message is very simple. Science without humanity is a lost cause. Dr. Swaminathan spent his entire lifetime emphasizing the importance of humanity in science and that science should be egalitarian, science should be democratic, and science should be acceptable to all and easily available to all. When the magic seeds came, he didn't go to the richest farmers, he went to the poorest farmers first. So science wins over everything else, and at the end of the day, as I've said in a lot of my interviews before, I hope the farmers of India, their cause is always upheld by any government which comes into power.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you.